All right, you are looking live. It's sold out, man. We're today 16 playoff bound New York Giants are taking on the 0 and 16 Atlanta Falcons. And why are the Atlanta Falcons 0 and 16? They've been around since 1966. I don't want anything. The biggest joke job in Super Bowl history. Been around for 60 years and they haven't won nothing. Oh my God, they stink. Oh, Falcons, man, you suck. Welcome to the Gridiron. Oh, man, this stuff gets me every time. Welcome to the Gridiron. Anybody out there at all is going to spend a little bit of time here. See, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. If anybody's going to spend any time watching the replays, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. I'm going to try to go about 30 minutes here tonight, shoot my mouth off for about 30 minutes. Anybody got anything to say, please feel free, fire away. Throw it in the chat box. Usually try to check on the chat box like every 5 or 10 minutes or so. So as soon as I see something in there, I try to respond to it as fast as I can. So please feel free. Fire away. But plus also, instead of me just rambling on for half an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever it might wind up being, it's just nice to talk to another Giant fan. Before we get started, if anybody wants to help support my channel out, it would mean the absolute world to me. Description box below, the very top link in the description box takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. The first one's called the Saquon. The second one's called the Lawrence Taylor. And third membership level I got is called the Gridiron. Each one's got their own little perks to them. So if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. And I thank you in advance. Thank you. If you're subscribed to my channel, once again, thank you. I can use all the support I can get, guys. But if not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. What do you got to lose, right? But if you are subscribed, thank you. Maybe give this video a thumbs up or share this video. That would be freaking awesome. And then finally, also, just a little ways down in the description box, there's 2 additional links. The top one's a Facebook link. I'll go over that in just a second. The one underneath it, I'm an old-time fart, right? I can't stand change. Just keep stuff the way they are, right? I'm too much of a moron to start, thinking too much, right? The link underneath it, it's a Twitter link, right? It's always been Twitter. It will always be Twitter because I'm one of them get off my lawn type old-time farts. I can't stand change, right? It's a Twitter link. Whatever letter in the alphabet Elon Musk wants me to call it, that's on you, bro. I ain't calling it that. I'm calling it Twitter because it's Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you back. That's an absolute promise. Try to put Giants-related stuff in my Twitter account every day. I said then the link on top of it, it's a Facebook link. It takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. It's doing simply marvelous, might add. We have over 8,500 members in the group. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing and if I have internet access, I'm putting stuff in this group darn near 365. And not only do I put stuff in this group, but the members post stuff in this group as well, too. And even Randy, my buddy Randy here, he posts stuff in the group. Everybody's posting stuff in this group, right? So between me, the members, and Randy, there's a ton of New York Giants information going in this group every day. It's the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You won't be dissatisfied. I promise. All right. Well, guys, all that stuff said and done and out of the way with. Well, speaking of done and out of the way with, OTAs is done and out of the way with. But I'll tell you what, it's amazing, how fast time flies. We got what do we got? Next week, we got the mandatory mini camp, right? And that's it. Ba-deep, that's all, folks, right? Then they're off for a month, and that's it. Right? Then they're off for a month, they come back, and it's on. Right, it's on. I mean, you got training camp, and then you got the preseason games, and it's on, guys. So, we're getting to that point, guys. We're really getting to that point. It's, as I said, this is basically this is my favorite time, of the season. It really sounds stupid because I'm a stupid kind of guy. I'm kind of crazy like that. But one thing my mom always said is that, the older you get, it's just amazing how fast time flies by. Right. And to me, she's right. The older I get, it just seems how much faster a lot of it has to do because I really keep pretty busy. I don't sit in front of the TV. I just sit there all day long. I just, God, it's such a long. I keep very, very busy. So that's one thing that does help quite a bit. As far as the time going by. But I do notice that these seasons they just come and go so much faster. I mean, when I was a kid, my God, the season ended. Well, then again, the season was shorter too. The season would actually end in December. Now we're like halfway into January and the season's ending, and then we got, back when I started, it was only 4 teams made the playoffs in each conference. Now, what are we up to? 13 teams. I mean, it's all, once again, it's all about the Benjamins, right? But it just seemed like, when the season ended, it was so long. I mean, I wasn't, I didn't follow it, when I'm 6, 7 years old. I wasn't like reading the papers, like, oh my God, who did the Giants draft and stuff. So all that stuff I didn't have much of a clue about. But so, I followed the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but after that, like February, March, April, and May, and June, and it was like months went by. A lot of it I also kind of kept preoccupied because I would follow baseball a lot more back then, and so I kept occupied also with I tried to keep up on with the Rangers and the Knicks and the Mets. Those were my teams back then, so I kept occupied with those. So it took my mind off of football. So like months would go by, and I wasn't even really thinking too much about football, but it seemed like it took a long time. Finally, in August, like the preseason games would start rolling around, and there was 6 of them. So you figure the beginning of August, so you play like maybe 4 preseason games, 4 or so, whatever, in August. And then because the football season wouldn't start like maybe September 20th. I remember going to school like the week after Labor Day, and that weekend there was no football, and sometimes I think we might have been like the following weekend we might have been football started. So you go like maybe the first 2 Sundays in football, you were playing preseason games, but it just seemed like back then it just like took forever, for another season to start, and then it was only 14 games, so the games are now are 17 games, so the season was even shorter. And then, of course, the Giants, back when I first started, the Giants never made the playoffs. So 14 games, and boom, your season there was no playoffs, none of that, So it just seemed like, the seasons back then, it was so long in between, But that's because, being a kid and all of that. But now it's like, it just seems like everything just goes by so fast. That's why I like this time of the season, right? Because once the season starts, it's especially now doing these videos and obviously watching the games, but then, doing a video after the game and doing doing a video before the game, after the game, and during the week and all that stuff and everything. You stay so, so there's always something going on with the Giants, and it's like boom, boom, boom. Like, before you know it, it's like 3, 4, 5 weeks went by. It's like, God, like a third of the season's over with already. Then you get caught up in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 games, whatever. And you're like, man, there's only like 5 games left in this. What the hell's going on? That's why I like it right around now. It's because it's just before things again. Because once they start, for an old fart like me, hopefully, if anybody out there watching this video, hopefully you're younger than me, and hopefully that's not the case. But like once it starts, it's like bam, 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 bam. Before you know it, another season's over with. It's like, what the hell? It was like last season. It was like, we getting ready to kick off. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, we got the ball against the Cowboys, I think, first, right? We marched down the field. Before you know it, it's 40-0. The game's over. And it's like, that game's over. And then boom. There was the Cardinal game, the 49er game. It's like bam, 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 bam. It's like before you know it, like a third of the season. It's like, wow. That's why I like right around now, because it's just before everything's getting ready to start. So they got the 2 mandatory mini camps next week, and I'll have to wait and see. Are they putting any type of a timeline? I mean, if Waller doesn't show up, I mean, you can forget about it, But we got the 2 mandatory days, and then they'll be gone for about 4 or 5 weeks or so, and then they come back, and it's on. Now, there was no media coverage at the OTAs today, but I'm sure it was the Schmelker, John Schmelk. Let me see if this ever freaking loads. Yep, John Schmelk, he did. View from the sideline, practice report for today, June 7th. His view from the sideline. So he gives a nice in-depth detail. There's only so much stuff that he's allowed to really talk about. But he can say if somebody caught a nice pass or 7-on-7s, Drew Lock threw a pass to here or something like that, or what, so he's only allowed to say so much, especially when there's not media coverage there. But he does a very good job. But it was a little shortened down from what I was hearing. It was, I don't know how long they actually had it for, but apparently Dabes broke it down a little bit earlier. And apparently what they were talking about on Big Blue Kickoff Live today, Paul Dottino, P-Dot, was kind of mentioning that he thought that was a very good sign that maybe Dabes was in a good place, because what he was saying, and Paul Dottino, and it was a very, very good point, was that, you only have so much time. It's not like it's not like, when I was in high school, that the coach would keep you out longer. Things weren't going well. Hey, guys, we're staying out here. We're working on this until we get it right. You can't do that in the NFL. And actually, I think that the Lions, they lost a practice, I think it is, because they violated, I saw a little article there that they violated. They had some contact. That's a no-no. So apparently they lost one of their practices. I'm not exactly sure what day it was. I really didn't read the article or anything too in-depth in detail. But you only got so much time out there. You only got so much time to teach these guys and stuff like that. I mean, everything has got to – if you got 2 hours, right, everything is broken down, right? You might have 5 minutes on this drill. Right, then you got 30 seconds to get the guys to run over here, and then you got 5 minutes on that, and then 30 seconds to run over. Everything has got to be right on. They got on the scoreboard, whatever it is, they got the timer. And it counts down the end of the period. Then they'll maybe have a horn that goes off, and he gives you 30 seconds or so, whatever, to run to offense or whatever, over here, defense, whatever. And you got to get over where you got to go, and then they start something else. So everything has got to be timed down to the second. There's only so much time. It's not like, all right, we're going to spend 8 hours today out learning. That's not happening. So every second out there is absolutely precious. So for this to be the 10th and final session of OTAs, and for Dabes to kind of cut things short a little bit, Paul Dottino was saying that might be a very good sign. He was kind of thinking that maybe Dabes, Brian Dable, is maybe in a good place. Thinking, obviously not that we're a complete team. We don't need to know nothing like that. But seeming, maybe rewarding the guys as well too. It was a very good turnout, right? Even we got Slayton in there, right? He came in, right? So just maybe a little reward as well too for the guys because it was apparently a very, very good turnout. So, but it was the final one, and it was a little shortened, shall we say. So John Schmelk from Big Blue Kickoff Live, once again, they usually have a show during the season. They got a show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, unless something really odd pops up. But in the off season here, like they may not have it, like especially in this 4 or 5 weeks that they have off, they're going to have very I don't know, might only have maybe 2 shows a week, maybe 3. But I mean, they do a very good job. They do an outstanding job covering the Giants, because they're allowed to be there every day. They watch the practices every day. Paul Dottino's there every day. John Schmelk's there every day. Unless they're assigned, like sometimes John Schmelk has got to be someplace else or something like that. But for the most part, these guys are there. They watch the practices. So they know a lot more what's going on than like Patricia Traina, Jordan Renan, Ed Valentine, these guys that cover, the Giants. But these guys, because these guys, they work for the Giants. They're actually there at every practice, right? And they see what's going on, right? So John Schmelk wrote, the Giants completed their 10th and final OTA on Friday. Next week, mandatory minicamp will take place on Tuesday and Wednesday, which will be the last time we see the team's veterans before they report for training camp at the end of July. So, so we got, 5 weeks or so off. Giants only had 1 competitive period with Tommy DeVito and Nathan Rourke taking a combined 10 snaps. Most of the veterans and players that have taken turns with the ones throughout the spring only did individual drills and then walked through plays for the final half of practice. Walkthroughs. There was still some highlights for the offense. Lawrence Cager had a pair of nice catches, including a deep one down the left sideline that he caught over the top. John Giles, I forgot all about him. We got so many guys, I forgot about these. But John Giles had a leaping grab on a pass from Rourke. Allen Robinson, don't forget about him, right? The Mr. Veteran himself. Caught a pass in the flat and quickly turned it upfield for what could have been a long run after catch. Given the shorter practice today, John Schmelk says, I will empty my notebook on some of the other drills the Giants have been working through over the past week. It's been fun watching new special teams coordinator Michael Gabriel, right, work with his large group. They've done a ton of punt coverage and return work as the team tries to identify its gunners for this season. Very important, right? Try to get those gunners. Something we did, didn't do too bad of a job on last season. He has also introduced the new kickoff rules to the team as they work on how they want to block for the returner and cover on those plays. Now, I'll tell you what, boy, that's going to be very, very interesting to see. Because I was saying before, when you got them this close, right, they're all looking, and as soon as the guy touches the ball, once the ball hits the ground, they're off and running, right? But, I'm not sure how they're going to, the guys defending are going to do. I mean, are they, I don't know. Or all, because you got the kicker, and then you got the 10 guys, right, on a line there. Are they all going to all run up and get contact, initiate contact? Or are you going to have, you're going to have a line? What you got to do is get one little hole in that line. And the guy goes through it. He's gone. Or you're going to have, I don't know, 5 guys run up and initiate contact. 5 guys try to drop back or something. It's going to be very interesting to see. I said, especially early on, I mean, there's a real good chance, you could wind up seeing, especially early on, until they maybe start getting things a little more figured out. But early on, you could, first few weeks, month, whatever, you might see some TDs. Very, very interesting. And I'm also interested to say, like we're going to maybe Turbo Miller back there, right? Very anxious to say. I mean, because you give that guy a crease and ain't nobody catching him. Not with his speed. Shane Bowen makes his way to all the position groups on defense as he installs his system and makes sure all the players know how he wants their position groups to play. He is not a screamer and likes to pull players aside after plays and teach. He also isn't hesitant to put himself into drills. Loving it, baby. Loving it. Playing the role of offensive players to help train his defense. The secondary seems to have caught on quickly to what he wants them to do. During Thursday's practice, he worked with the linebackers on their gap assignments based on the look the offense gives them. And Wink wasn't a screamer either. He was always, calm, if I can tell, So Mike Rowe continues to train the wide receivers. Earlier this week, they were working on drills specifically designed on back shoulder throws. When players have speed to win over the top, like the Giants wide receiver group does, those types of throws can be helpful to counter defenders trying to always stay behind the receivers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Tight ends were working on their combo blocks with offensive tackles earlier in the week. I like the way Carmen Basillo brings the entire team together at different times to work on blocking, whether it's the tight ends to gain chemistry with the tackles or the quarterbacks and running backs to work on pass protection and communication with the center and the rest of the offensive line. Veterans Jermaine Luminor and John Runyon Jr. have both been eager to spread their wisdom and help coach up their younger teammates. I really like the enthusiasm between the offense and the defense as OTAs wore on. Head coach Brian Dable calls this portion of the year a teaching period, but the players were very competitive. The defensive backs and wide receivers were not shy about letting the other group know when they thought they won on a play, period, or practice day. Nothing ever got chippy, but the energy was great as both sides of the ball took pride in their success. Well, that's the chippiness will start wind up happening when, once they start banging heads and it gets hot and sweaty and you just banging heads with the same guy every day, every day, every play, that. And so that's when you'll see, the this and the whistle blows and, they blow the whistle and some guy gets a last push in or something like that. I mean, that's when you'll start seeing a little chippiness there. So, but the only chippiness now would be like with the mouths because there's no contact. But it gets, when you get hot and sweaty and tired and all that, and just beating on the same guy day in and day out. That's when training camp. I mean, obviously, that's when some of the chippiness will start coming in. But that's good. That's good. The energy, you gotta love it. Then the preseason schedule, all 3 games, woohoo, is out. All right. We know for sure when the Giants will be playing in August. So, the NFL released the full preseason schedule on Friday morning, and now we know for sure when the Giants will be playing this August. We've known for some time that the Giants will be playing the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, and the Jets, and which of those will be road and home games. Now we know precisely the days and the times of those games. Now, the first game with the Lions will be Thursday, August 8th at 7 p.m. And that might possibly correspond to right around the same time that they're going to be playing the Lions in the team, the practice, joint practice, right? So if you figure they're playing the Lions Thursday night, look for maybe the Lions to come in, I don't know, whatever, Monday. What the heck would that be? 7, 6, maybe Monday the 5th or something like that, or the 6th. So maybe the Giants will hold a joint practice Tuesday the 6th, Wednesday the 7th, and then Thursday night the 8th they play the preseason game, right? Because then also the final one will be, I mean, it's the final joint practice. They're going to apparently have, from what I'm understanding, they'll have one joint practice against the Jets in the Jets' home, LaFleur Park. But the Giants are the road team this year against the Jets, but their second game is against the Texans. That'd be a nice little challenge for them. So they're playing in Houston. It's going to be the following week. It's going to be 9 days later. So they're starting on Thursday the 8th. 9 days later on Saturday, August 17th, right, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, they're playing the Texans. And then, of course, as always, it seems like a nighttime game against the Jets. The Giants at the Jets the following Saturday night, August 24th, 7:30 p.m. So, and then, of course, then they basically got a 1 week off. And then the 8th is when they start the home game, obviously the first game at home against Minnesota. We're going to go over the schedule a little bit more right at the end of this video here, because Mr. Hyatt was doing a little bit of talking about the Giants here, his hopes. So we're going to go over the schedule, the regular season schedule. But so they got the 3 games, and then of course the 24th, right, will be the final game against the Jets, and then they have 2 weeks before the season starts. But each of the Giants games are noteworthy and could provide good tests as they ramp up for the 2024 season. Absolutely. Good against the Lions, very, very good challenge there. Of course, against the Jets. And basically, it don't matter. The Jets could be 0-16 or 0-17. The Giants could be 0-17. It's they're going to give each other their best, right? And then and going to play against the Texans. Now, the second game, that's where you could maybe possibly see, maybe some starters in there, maybe for the Giants. We'll have to wait and see. And I don't know if that's going to be Daniel Jones kind of thing or not, but so we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, that'll be a very good test playing the Texans. So that'd be nice, very, very nice. The Giants will host the Lions for joint practices prior to their game, their second year in a row in which the two teams practiced against each other. That's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's really good the way that Daves and Campbell are, like, I'm not saying they're bonding or nothing like that, but they're keeping in touch. And of course we practiced it. We had a preseason game against them last season, so that's when the Giants went there. Right. Of course, we basically lost on the punt return. That was the difference in the game. I remember Daves. He was not happy on that return. That is for sure. Let's see. The two teams were pretty similarly situated a year ago as plucky upstarts, okay, with similar records trying to take the next step. This year, the Giants will practice against, then face a Lions team that was in the NFC Championship game. We shouldn't draw many conclusions from the first preseason game, but this is a chance for the Giants to measure themselves against one of the best teams in the NFC from a year ago. And I'm sure they won't take any type of a step back. I mean, obviously, unless they'll still be a very hard-nosed, tough football team. I mean, if they quite possibly, if they do take a step back at all, it'll be very minimal. If they do take a big step back, okay, it'll probably be due to they will have quite a few injuries, but you don't wish injuries on anybody. Giants get 9 days off after the Lions game, some of which they'll use to travel down to Houston to take on the Texans. This is another great test for them as C.J. Stroud lifted a team that had to play perfectly to not be embarrassed and allow them to be a bona fide playoff team. Yeah, I mean, and the game again, they lost against the Ravens. They were in that at halftime. Just in the second half, they couldn't score a point. Let's see, but you got Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. Don't forget about him, right? Tank Dell, John Mechie, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, right? Should provide a good test for the Giants defense if they play, right? Likewise, Will Anderson Jr. and Derek Stingley Jr. can test the Giants' offensive line and receiving group. Finally, while the Jets certainly weren't a playoff team last year, I mean, that's because of their offense. I mean, they didn't have a bona fide quarterback. Right? I mean, it'd be interesting to see if Aaron Rodgers played all season long, right? Where the Jets might have finished up at. Let's see. But the playoffs, that's the expectations for the team this year with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have a stout roster and a great defense. And if the two teams use this game as a dress rehearsal for the season, we can get a very informative last look at the Giants before the Week 1 contest against the Vikings. Absolutely. All right. So now, there's an article here. This is from Nick Filato. He likes breaking this stuff down and explaining all this stuff and everything like that. He does a very, very good job of it. He explains the 8-man defensive front spacing from Wink Martindale and the defensive front, Shane Bowen. Right now, you got to look. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's a little different. Wink, it's interesting if you think about it, because Wink Martindale actually has it where he has got enough guys in the box, right, where everybody's got a gap. And yet, the amount of yards per carry the Giants were giving up was just astronomical. I mean, especially if you look, I'm going to go over in a second, like from 2 seasons ago. Compared, if you take what the Giants gave up in 2022, yards per carry, compared to what Shane Bowen defense gave up, running defense. The difference was huge. And you got, as I said, basically, because you got Wink walking a guy up in the box, you got maybe somebody else in the box who can cover all the gaps, right? He's got, basically he's got, there's the 2 gaps between the center and the guards, the 2 gaps between the guards and the tackle, right? Then there's the 1 gap between the tackle and the 1 tight end, and then there's the 2 gaps outside. So right? But Wink, I mean, he had enough guys in the box or right there. Everybody have a gap. And he was just giving up an extraordinary amount of yards. But let's see here. We got explaining. This is from Nick Filato. Explaining the 8-man defensive front spacing, which was Wink Martindale's preference. The Giants will have a different defensive structure in 2024 under the guidance of Shane Bowen. Right? 7-man spacing up front is referred to as a defense being outgapped, basically, which is pretty much what Shane Bowen is going to wind up having, right? Meaning the defense is -1 in the box with both safeties deep, which is what Shane Bowen does. Martindale had maybe one of the guys up in the box. 8-man spacing is the defense being gapped out. I mean, it's the terminology is meaning the defense has a +1 advantage against the run in the box with a middle of the field closed safety. So it would basically be either cover 1 or cover 3. These are 1 gap run fits. Everybody's got a gap. But basically, like with Wink will have like 1 eye safety. and one of the other safeties might be in the box. Right? Martindale wouldn't typically employ 4 down even fronts on early rush downs. But the numbers advantage would still be the same from a similar offensive formation. Martindale's defense is based on TITE fronts, also didn't attack as aggressively as many 4-down defensive fronts do when they're in 8-man spacing. As we see above, there's a box here, right? So basically what it does is the one edge rusher has the gap to the outside of the tackle. The 3 technique, could be Sexy Dexy or just whoever, right, has one of the spaces in between the guard and the tackle. Then it would have the free safety, okay, comes up, is in the box, is a Wink Martindale. And he might have the gap possibly be covered between the guard and the center, which in one respect is not maybe outstanding because, you basically you got the safety. I'm trying to move my legs so I don't kick my buddy Randy here. Let me move my legs here, buddy. Sorry, pal. Oh, I got to move my legs. Oh, there we go. So there's what they're showing here, Nick Filato is like the free safety is in the box, but he's got a gap in between the center and the guard. So now you got a safety, a 220-pound safety going in there being maybe outmanned by 100 pounds. That's not exactly the maybe the most ideal. But here it says that the free safety has the gap in between the guard and the center. The other guard in the center would be the other nose tackle, the other 3 technique. Then you got the gap between the guard and the tackle would be by the middle linebacker or a Karake. Then you got then you would have the edge rusher, right? Would have the gap in between the tackle and the tight end, and then you'd have maybe like the weak side linebacker or the will or whatever you want. Your other middle linebacker has to set the edge, right? So basically, in the Wink Martindale here, you got pretty much like all the gaps are covered, right? All the ones in the middle and the 2 on the edge. You got 2 guys that can set the edge. Now it's just astounding how even with that, I mean, he was just giving up the yards he was giving up was just astronomical. Now basically he says here in the chart, it says from the Wink Martindale, right? It shows in the chart there are 6 eligible blockers, right? The 2 tackles, 2 guards, the center, and the tight end, right? For the offense, and 7 defenders in the run fit. Hence, the defense is a +1, right? Because basically you got the 6 blockers, and so you got 6 blockers trying to block 7 defenders. So there's the +1 there, all right? See, there's more down here to this, yeah. This is in a 3-4 defensive structure. The defense can appear to be outgapped, but the overhang, nickels, and quick additions to the run fit based on the reads at the snap. But so I mean, basically, the nice thing about is with the Wink Martindale is because you got guys, freaking everywhere, right? I mean, he'll have maybe the 4 defensive linemen, right? The 2 edge rushers and the 2, maybe Leonard Williams, just or Nacho or Ashawn Robinson and Sexy Dexy. Then you got 2 linebackers. So now you got 6 guys, right? But then he always walks somebody up. Now, whether he might walk the safety up or something like that, but they can switch. Maybe the safety covers the guy in the slot receiver, and then the slot cornerback, he's the one that goes into the box or whatever. But that's the one nice thing about Wing, because he has enough guys usually a lot of times has a lot of guys in the box. Doesn't have a lot of times has 2 safeties just sitting way in the back. That doesn't usually happen, right, with him. Usually he's got a lot of guys up around a lot of scrimmage, which is the exact opposite of what Bowen does. But the thing here is if you look at 2022, what the Giants, their run defense. Oh my God! Right. I mean, we didn't have a carry, okay, but we have a 5.2 yards per carry in 2022. 2022, the Titans run defense 3.4 yards a carry. They gave up almost 2 yards a carry less than the Giants did. And it got better last year for the Giants. So we'll go next season here for the Titans. So 2023, the Titans gave up 3.8. So they went from 3.4 to 3.8, but still under 4 yards a carry, 3.8 yards a carry, which is still a lot better than the Giants. Let's see here. So the Titans last season gave up 3.8. The Giants gave up 4.7. So basically, the Titans gave up almost about a full yard less per carry last season, right, than the Giants did. So we gotta hope that the Bowen system functions just as well, because it's rather embarrassing. Giving up, just being gashed for yards, running yards. Very, very embarrassing. Now, with Nick Filato, here's the 7-man, right? Nick Filato explaining the 7-man defensive front spacing, which is Shane Bowen's go-to. Once again, this is from Nick Filato, right? And let's see here. New York Giants hired Shane Bowen as their defensive coordinator earlier in the offseason. Bowen runs a much different defense than Wink Martindale. Martindale ran a lot of 8-man spacing boxes with a post safety, middle of the field safety, right? Let's see here. With both edge defenders outside of the tackles to create a 5-man wall on the line of scrimmage. This helped defend the B gap against spread rushing offenses, while spilling runs to contain defenders on the outside. We did see some 7-man spacing from Martindale's defense in certain situations, but we're likely to see much more with Shane Bowen calling plays for it was his front of choice in Tennessee. Right. Now, because a lot of what he does, because sometimes have a lot of too high safeties, right? 7-man spacing means 2 safeties are secondary to the run fit with no primary gaps. So a lot of times the safeties are back deep, the free and strong safety, and neither one has any type of a specific gap that they're assigned to. Right. 7-man spacing means 2 safeties. Bowen's use a split field coverage will render the Giants light in the box, meaning like a -1. With the nickel cheated inside, 7 in the box, depending on the personnel. So sometimes maybe instead of the nickel, right, means so much right directly over the slot receiver, right, the nickel might be more, take a few steps in to get closer into the box. And then that might wind up leaving the possibly maybe the free safety to be more over the slot receiver. So 7-man spacing means 2 safeties are secondary, right? If the back were aligned to the field side, the boundary safety would likely be the 7th player in the fit, not the nickel. So sometimes, one of the safeties might, have to come up. Sometimes the nickel might wind up coming up. It's all different, but it's just kind of odd because you think that with Bowen's defense, run defense being as good as it is, right? It just seems like a little weird how he's the one that has less guys in the box. He has less guys in the box, and yet, the yards per carry to give up is far fewer. than what Wings got all kinds of guys in the box, and we're getting gashed for all kinds of yards. I mean, every guy is assigned a cap. So, I mean, of course, if you're able to, right, keep your, stay in your gaps, right, you should be able to make stops. But it's like the exact opposite. So, I always point out here is look for, with Wink Martindale, we had like the one high safety, right? But with Bowen, you might have, the two safeties might be more deep. Look for something like that, right? But hopefully, with the way Bowen draws it up, look for the Giants, their run defense to be. They gave up 4.7 last year. I'll tell you what, hopefully we can get it down around 4. That would be fantastic. If we can get it under 4, that would be awesome. Really, really would be awesome. And, if you think about it, right? I mean, I can't remember all their guys, but I mean, they got Simmons, right? Who's a phenomenal defensive, interior defensive lineman, but I mean, if I'll tell you what, I'll put a Carrick, McFadden, Dexter Lawrence, Burns, and Thibodeau up against whoever they had in Tennessee. I mean, straight up, I'll put that up against, and if they were able to keep their guys, their defense was able to keep the other team's average under 4 yards a carry. Yeah. I'll have to wait and say, "Oh, Vinny G-Man, hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, it's all right, pal." It is what it is. It's nice to have someone to talk to, right? But yes, I mean, so look for the Giants without question, right? Their run defense to be improved. We got. It's not like Bowen's just going to come over and we got a bunch of bad players and he's just going to wave his wand and our run defense is going to be better. No, we got some good players. I mean, McFadden's is, he sometimes he has problems every now and then missing tackles, but he's in the box, going downhill. That's his cup of tea right there. Carrick is a tackling machine. Dexter Lawrence, we got Kayvon and Burns there. So if at Tennessee they were able to get the guy, I said last year was 3.8 yards a carry, Tennessee gave up. 2 years ago, it was 3.4 yards a carry they gave up. So, look for the Giants. I mean, the Giants gave up 4.7 last year, right, which was a big improvement over the year before. But, with Bowen, what he brings and the players that we have, I'm not saying we got, the greatest defense of all time, but the players that we got, we should be able to get that down at least 4 yards a carry. The offensive line holds would be in the playoffs. Well, I'll tell you what, that's my last thing here. Jalen Hyatt, he's got some high hopes for the Giants. I mean, he said, I'm going to go over. Hyatt's like, it's a playoff team. All right, okay. Well, Jalen's never been in the playoffs before, but he knows it. All right, I'm for it. Sign me up, baby. Yeah, I'm going to go over the schedule too. Once again, so hey. Sure, don't ever say don't say no. Absolutely not. All right, then I got this here. So this is from Brandon Olson. What would Giants offense change if Darren Waller retires? Well, I mean, the biggest thing here, what he's got here is from Giants country, is that, Waller was probably like the number one guy, maybe kind of go-to guy that they were hoping for last season, right? Well, that's not going to be the case, right? Now we got neighbors. So we had a number one guy to go to last year, right? And obviously he was often injured with his hamstrings, but now we have a true number one wide receiver to throw the ball to. Right. So now the number one guy this year will be a wide receiver as compared to last season. It was wound up being a tight end. Right. Since one of the biggest storylines surrounding the Giants this offseason is the uncertainty of whether or not tight end Darren Waller, whom the Giants acquired via trade with the Raiders, will retire. Well, I mean, I'd be shocked if he winds up playing, but I'll have to wait and see. Waller dealt with injuries, for the 2021 and 2022 seasons, but prior to that, he had back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons to establish himself as one of the most dangerous pass-catching tight ends in the NFL. Oh, yeah. Let's see. The decision to trade for him and the compensation given up made the trade a low-risk, high-reward move. Yeah. I mean, you can, but low risk, a third round draft pick. Nah, that's not a low risk. You just traded away a third round pick for 12 games. That's a high risk. That's bad. That's bad. And I'm sure Shane's going to learn from that. Next time he trades away a third round pick, like he did this season for Burns, traded away a second and a fifth or whatever it was, but it was for somebody who was an elite athlete or whatever, but an elite athlete who did not miss games, unlike Waller. So, however, with Waller all but certain to retire, there will be questions about how the team plans to realign the offense to compensate for the loss. To some, Waller retiring might not seem like a loss given the disappointing production he delivered. Well, he had 52 receptions in 12 games. If he played all 17 games with a crappy offensive line, crappy offense, this, that, and the other thing, he was on pace for over 70 receptions. He would have 700-800 yards receiving. That's not totally disappointing, right? So in looking at how the team could potentially move on from him, we're taking into consideration what a healthy Waller brought to the table in both skills, ability, and potential production, if healthy. Well, he's never going to be healthy, right? If Waller announces retirement, where would he leave the Giants offense? The immediate thought goes to the tight end room, which would now be left with Bellinger, Manhurts, Stahl, Adoree Jackson, who's injured, Cager, and Theo. Bellinger has an inconsistent first 2 years of his career as far as production goes, but the film has been good, and his blocking ability is the best on the team. Well, he's got to do better blocking this year than he did last year. It's easy to break this tight end room into two groups, in line and flex. The inline group would be Bellinger, Manhurts, and Stahl. Should be relatively unaffected by Waller's presence or lack thereof. The flex group is where Waller fits into, joining Jackson, Tyree Jackson, Lawrence Cager, and Theo Johnson. The departure of Waller would significantly decrease the quality of the room. Well, I'm anxious to see what Theo Johnson can bring. Not saying he's going to be a Darren Waller, but with his size and freakish athletic ability, let's see what he can do. Jackson is a quarterback turned tight end who's yet to crack a rotation, playing in 2 games last season for the Giants. He was seen with his arm in a brace at the most recent OTA after he left OTA number 3 a couple of weeks ago, mid-practice with the trainer. So that's not sounding too good for Jackson. Despite playing in just 12 games last season, Waller still had the behind only Darius Slayton and Wando Robinson, the rest of the Giants tight ends combined. Yeah, he had, was it 50-something receptions? So the rest of the Giants tight ends combined just saw 33 targets for the year. Waller's versatility allowed the Giants to have him on the field and inline him up all over the formation to exploit defenses. In 2023, Waller spent a few tight ends. I don't know if there's some typo errors here. Few tight ends in the NFL can play that role and be as effective in every phase as Waller has over his career. The Giants spent, which would likely drop if Waller is no longer on the roster. The 12 personnel package consists of 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers. Well, I'm sure they're going to want to have 3 wide receivers on the field because we got some horses. And if you're going to have Hyatt or Slayton or somebody like that on the sideline, ooh, boy, you're hurting. You're hurting. So we're interested to see how many 11 personnels we got with the one running back, the one tight end, how often they try to get the 12 personnel in there with 2 tight ends. It's like, it's almost like, I don't know. It's like, it's almost a shame for anything. I mean, because if you have 12 personnel in there, because you got 2 tight ends, okay, but that means you're only going to have 2 wide receivers. It's like, ooh, of course, one's going to be Neighbors. Maybe the other will be Wanda Robinson. I don't know. But I mean, then you're going to have Slayton, Allen Robinson, Hyatt on the sideline, Hodgins on the sideline. Wow. But then if you have 3 wide receivers, then it's like, okay, so who's your tight end going to be? You're going to have 1 tight end. So that means you're going to have maybe Theo Johnson on the sideline. Like, oof. But I mean, the thing is with Waller, I mean, the one thing, the thing going in the last season was they had him like lined up in multiple spots, right? They were able to go and attack and take advantage of certain situations because he's a huge mismatch. Obviously when he was healthy, right? You can maybe have a cornerback keep up with his speed, maybe, right? But you got a cornerback and then you got Waller. Right, mismatch. Right, maybe you have a taller linebacker who can cover Waller, but then you got mismatch, right? Because Waller should be faster than the linebackers. If you get him on a safety, they should be a mismatch as well too. So I mean, you can have Waller all over the place. It'd be nothing but mismatches, but he's only so good. Your best ability is your availability, and he just was not available very often. But a lot of it seems like is whatever. If he retires, which it really seems like he's going to be, because it doesn't seem like his head is involved with football right now. Anyway, I mean, they got plenty of places to divvy up throwing the ball to. I mean, we wanted, maybe how last year when we brought Waller in, we wanted to, let's feed the ball to Waller. Well, now it's like, Waller's gone. We got Mr. Neighbors, right? Let's feed the ball to him. Get the ball to him. Get the ball in his hands, right? We got plenty of people to throw it to. Plenty of people throw it to. New York guys rather make music than. Yep. It just seems like right now it seems like his head is like writing songs or music or whatever it is he's writing about, trying to get back at his ex-wife or make fun of her or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, instead of worrying about football, I mean, if you're worried about this, right? I mean, I can't possibly see how he's going to wind up coming in and playing football. Even if he was here, right, and have his helmet on and his jersey, even if he's here, he's not really here. This is someplace else. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anything's possible. But I mean, if he hasn't even stepped inside the building one time yet. So he has basically, pretty much. I mean, they asked Dable, right, and it's like, well, I haven't heard anything on Waller. Oh no, we're gonna give him his time. I mean, so what happens if next Tuesday and Wednesday with mandatory minicamp if he doesn't show up? What then? Right? What are you gonna do then? Oh, we're still waiting. We want to give him some time. I don't want Waller back. Golladay 2.0. Yeah, I know. But the nice thing is, if he doesn't come back, we save some money. Unlike with Golladay, we had to bite a bullet last season. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was. Once again, the one thing is, you went out and you spent some big time bucks on a guy who had an injury history. He wasn't. I think I don't know. Gettleman said they brought him in and checked him out and everything was just hunky dory and everything like that. But there had to be something wrong with Golladay because he was not worth 4 years, $72 million. Not even close. So then once again, we bring in somebody else. Third round pick, man, for 12, possibly 12 games. Man, but once again, I'm sure Shane learned a big lesson there. As what you saw. I mean, like what we drafted, we only had 6 draft picks, but pretty much all the guys that he drafted, were relatively almost, the whole career healthy, right? A lot of the guys that the free agency brought in, I mean, I really don't have much of not that I can think of, have much of an injury history. So bringing in a bunch of healthy guys, but it's always smart, tough, and dependable. You can be smart and tough, but if you're not dependable, right? So, I mean, I'm sure Shane learned a lot, right? I mean, because, that third round pick, that would help. That could help fill another hole in the roster, or if not fill a hole, gave us some nice depth someplace. I forgot. I mean, the draft, that was a couple month and a half ago, whatever it was. I forgot, like the third round picks that were still there and all of that. But I'm sure we could have gotten somebody. If not a starter, some real good depth piece. Because obviously, we still got some room for improvement. Obviously, So I mean, I'm sure Shane learned his lesson there. If you're going to make a trade or draft somebody or bring a free agent in or whatever, have those guys be relatively healthy. Right. And finally, good old, I'll tell you what, good old Jaylen. I hope he's right. Wide receiver Jaylen Hyatt. We have a playoff team. I love it, baby. All right. I love it. It's 2 years under, this is NFL.com. Who wrote this here? Who wrote this? Kevin Patra, looks like. Kevin Patra. Receiver Jaylen Hyatt believes Big Blue is on back to the postseason. Aha. New year, new opportunities, new goals, Hyatt said on Thursday via Giants Wire. For me, I always set high expectations. Just looking at our team, looking at what we got, we have a good chance to do whatever we want to do. Okay. For goals, I just want as a team goal. We have a playoff team, and that's what we want to do, and that's our focus. We're going to get there. All right, cool. I love it, baby. Those outside the locker room aren't as optimistic. No, they're not. The Giants' win total projections have hovered around 6. Whew. Another 6-11 season. Big Blue was miserable on both sides of the ball last season with a slight blip of Tommy DeVito mania providing a buffer of levity. With Daniel Jones returning under center, can the addition of first-rounder Malik Neighbors and the revamped defense, importing Brian Burns and a new coaching staff, immediately turn things around? Hyatt's comment shouldn't come as a surprise. What is he supposed to say? Good point. I mean, you're not gonna have. Oh, well, I tell you, this year, we suck. We won 6 games last season. Yeah, we'll be lucky to win 4. I mean, you're not going to hear that. I mean, a lot of times you're not going to hear some guy come out maybe all the time and say, "Oh, we're going to the playoffs," or but nobody's going to say we suck, right? Here you go. Hyatt's comments shouldn't come as a surprise. What is he supposed to say, right? We stink, and this year will be a waste. He's not saying that, right? One, that's not a mentality any professional football player can take. It's too physical of a game. Negative mindsets get you run over, absolutely. Secondly, teams regularly go from poor to the playoffs in a sport that prides itself on competitive balance. Absolutely. It might surprise some if the Giants make a run at the postseason, but wilder things happen in the NFL. And one of the things is that, I can't remember exactly what it is, but every year, right? Every year, out of whatever the amount of teams that go to the playoffs, that I don't know what it is, 40% of them the next year are different teams. I mean, I said when I once again going back to the 70s, right? Every year the Steelers, every year the Raiders, every year the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys every year in the 70s, the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys went from, I'm going to say, wow, except for 74, 66 to like 84 or something like that, like 19 seasons. Cowboys went, if you look at it, type it in. At 74, they didn't go. 74, they were 8-6. They were 8-6. But they had winning seasons every year. But I know 66 because they went to the championship game in 66. They went to the championship game in 67. 68, they played the Browns. 69, they played the Browns. 70, they went to the Super Bowl. 71, they won the Super Bowl. 72, they got to the championship game. 73, they lost to the Vikings in the divisional round. 74, they didn't make it. 74, the Redskins and the Cardinals were the top. But I mean, if you go from 66, I'm going to say to like 84, the Cowboys every freaking year. I mean, because I said, like back then, if you were a good team, almost every year, same teams in the playoffs. I mean, it might be a new team in here. The next year, it might be one new team, something like that. But it was almost this, the Rams. 70, 71, and 72 was the 49ers. But after that, 73 to like 84, 85, what it was, the Rams every freaking year. Almost every year, the Rams. But from 73 to, I think, 73 to like 80, I think the Rams, won the division every year from 73 to 80. The Cowboys for like 19 years. I mean, the Raiders almost every year. The Steelers, it was just the same teams. Now it's like it's the parity. That's what the NFL wants. They want a lot of first to first, right? The salary cap and all that. They want parity, and to some extent, it's it's good. I mean, because you think about it, right? I mean, if you have if you get a good draft. Right. If you don't have a real strong division, hey, a lot of times you see teams from worst to first one season. Absolutely. Sure. But then a lot of times, you see teams maybe worst to first, and then the next season they fall back out of the playoffs again. So there's a lot of turnover in the playoffs. So anything's possible. Right. I mean, we know there's probably going to be some good teams. I mean, you got to look at the Eagles. I'm sure, right? The Cowboys, they might slip a little bit, but I mean, I'm sure the Lions will be good. You got the 49ers will be good. So you got some good teams, but at least stuff open to some other teams, right? And just say the Cowboys get decimated by injuries, they may not make the playoffs. If the Eagles get decimated by injuries, they may not make the playoffs. The Eagles have a really good lineup, but how's their depth? I mean, they got, once again, they've been very lucky over the past few years. Good for them. They've been relatively healthy, right? But I mean, if they start getting decimated like the Giants were, like last season, right? How's their backup? I mean, because the Eagles spend a lot of money, have a lot of really good quality players, starting quality players, right? But but then if you have a bunch of really good starting players, how's your depth? So I mean, if the 49ers, right, if they get decimated, well, they may not make the play. So it's a lot of turnover every year. So, and once again, it makes it exciting, especially for us Giant fans. Right, because I mean, I'm not saying we're going to the Super Bowl, but we were 6-11. I can say this all the time till I drop dead. I mean, if Graham Gano kicks that field goal against the Jets, puts us up 13-7, we quite possibly win that game. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I know, but we could have been 7-10. Right, a third string quarterback, all his injuries, and we were 7-10. So we were 6-11. But if we win a few more games this season, we could be in the playoffs. Right. So Can't. Now we look at the schedule here. We really would behoove the Giants to start off 2-0, without question. The only one thing is the one thing I do like. Okay, is that they were facing the Commanders in Washington early. Now, if they start their rookie quarterback, right, before he starts getting a lot of very comfortable, gets feet underneath him, right. We get him early, he might be more susceptible to making some bad decisions, some bad throws, maybe throwing some interceptions, maybe not as complete, maybe not feeling really comfortable with the players around them, not feeling really comfortable with the offense just yet. Maybe when we play them November 3rd, right, rookie quarterback might be a little more comfortable if he's playing. If he starts, right, he might be a little more comfortable. But when we play him in November, we'll be home, right? So, it would be nice. Especially out of the first 3 games, if the Giants can find a way to win 2 out of the first 3, right, that would be huge. Because, Cleveland on the road won't be very easy. That's for sure. Now, the thing is here, the next 5 games, we're playing a Pittsburgh team. Okay, I was like, well, let's go to game 4. Playing the Cowboys at home. Can we ever beat them? Cowboys? No, at home. Game 4 at home. Cowboys lost a lot of guys. They had a nice draft, but they lost a lot of guys. They didn't really bring in much of anybody. They brought back Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think they're quite as good as they were last season. But then again, I said the same thing last season. They beat us 812-0. So I got to keep my mouth shut. But then we got to play on the road in Seattle. That'll be a tough one. Then we got the Bengals. That'll be a tough one, but we're at home. Then we got the Eagles. That'll be a tough one. And then we got to play in Pittsburgh. Oof. So that's a tough stretch there, right? That'll be a tough stretch, those 5 games there. Then we got the next 5 games, we got to bye, right? We got Washington at home. We got Carolina in Germany, right? Then we got the Bucs at home. Then we got the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving. So I'll tell you what, out of those next 4 games, if we can go 3 between the Commanders at home, Carolina, and the Bucs at home, if we can win 3 of those 4 and then maybe lose to the Cowboys, that would be cool, which would set us up for the final 5 games. We got the Saints at home. We got the Ravens at home. We got the Falcons on the road. We got the Colts at home. And then we got the Eagles on the road. It would be nice if somehow we could win 3 of those final 5 games. If we can win 2 of the first 3, then, as I said, between the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Eagles, and the Steelers, that's tough 5 games right there. We need to win, obviously, at least 1. If we can win 2, that would be fantastic. Then I said, then we got the Commanders, the Panthers, the Bucs, and the Cowboys, and then we got the bye. We need to win. I'm looking at hopefully like 3 there. That would give us, 5, maybe 6. And then at the final 5 games between the Saints and the Ravens at home, the Falcons on the road, the Colts and the Eagles. I said, we got to win 2 or 3 there. Just to give us like maybe 8 or 9 wins to give us a chance to make the playoffs. There's always, like when we played the Ravens a couple of seasons ago. The Ravens haven't lost. I think it's to No, it's got to be the NFC. I think it's Jackson hasn't lost to anybody. I think in the NFC. I think except for the Giants. So you'll always get something like that, like when we beat them a couple years ago, right? That was a good game, really exciting game. So you always get something like that where maybe you wind up winning a game. It's like, how did we win that game? And then you go to Munich and you wind up losing to the Panthers. It's like, how did we lose that game? So there's always be stuff like that. You just can't go because it's not so much who you're playing. Sometimes it's when you're playing them. Now, point in hand, where we got it? Tough schedule, Jeff, but the team on paper is better than 2022. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I think we're definitely better. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but it's, a lot of it's not so much who you're playing, it's when you're playing them. You know, who are your injured players? Who are their injured players? When are, do they have bad injuries to top players? And is that when you're playing against them? Like the last game of the season, like with the Eagles, we're on the road playing Philadelphia. I'm just saying, do they have a playoff spot sewn up? And we're fighting to get in, and they rest maybe some of their players, right? And the only reason why they're resting their players is because it's the last game of the season. They don't need the game, and they're resting Saquon. They're resting Hurts. A.J. Brown's not playing. DeVonta Smith may not be playing. So we going up against their second stringers. We need the game. They don't, right? It's in Philly, and maybe we pull the upset, but that's because we're playing their second stringers, right? So sometimes it's not who you're playing, it's when you're playing them, right? But I'm saying the same thing like with injuries, though. When are you decimated by injuries? Is it early on? Is it later on? Is it all season long? So, is one of the. I mean, it's like whatever. If we're playing the Seahawks. Say their top two quarterbacks are injured. We're playing their third string quarterback. Well, that might give us an advantage right there, right? Instead of going into Seattle playing Geno Smith and the starting gang, right? That'd be tougher, right? So it's got a lot, it's got a lot to do with it. So you just can't say, oh, we're going to win that game. Oh, we'll probably lose that one. We're going to win that. You have to wait and see, But regardless, there's always a game or so where it's like, like the Packers. We beat the Packers last season with a third string quarterback. Then the Packers go on the road in the playoffs and beat the Cowboys by 515 points. It's like, how did that happen? That always happens every season. That's why they say any given Sunday. And it's true. It's true. Any given Sunday, things happen. So there's always stuff like that goes on. Always, like, how did we lose to those guys? Or it's like, how do we beat those guys? They finished 14-3. How do we beat? That always happens. But you're right. Yeah, we do have I really like our roster. If Priscillo can get this offensive line, functionable, right? That would be freaking huge. That would be huge. Really, really huge. So can the offensive line be functionable, and can we stay somewhat healthy? That would be huge as well, too. That would really, really help. Because, it stinks losing Saquon, right? But I'm very anxious to see what our young running backs can do. But I'm very, very excited about seeing this wide receiver group. And the thing is like, it seems like what Dable wants to do is he wants to throw the ball, right? And a good pass and attack is going to help open up the run game, right? Especially if you got a good offense, because obviously the longer you're not going to be rocket scientists figuring this out, right? The longer your offense is on the field, the longer the defense is on the field. And for the most part, the defense starts getting tired. Now they can like rotate in, maybe some defensive linemen and stuff like that, but they're not rotating in cornerbacks. They're not taking cornerback. They're not taking Deion Sanders off the field, giving the guy a blower. So that's not happening. They're not taking Ronnie Lott, a safety off the field. He's in there. You know what I mean? But everything helps everything. It's all the theory relatively, right? If they're so worried about Jalen Hyatt going deep and Malik Neighbors coming over the middle or Robinson, they're so worried about all of that crap, right? It helps the running game, right? A good running game, right? Helps a good passing game. If you got a good running, it was a couple of years ago, I think it was, when we had a good running game. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley that help the passing game, right? But, if you get a good running game that sets up the play action pass, right? If you get, if they're all concentrated on Saquon or whatever, a good running game, and the quarterback got the ball, turns around to the running back, makes it look like it's going to be a run. All you got to do is freeze those linebackers for a second or so, and it helps open up stuff, behind them. So I'm very, very anxious to see. Oh yeah, it's going to, once again, I was anxious last season too. We started with 9-7-1. I'm like, oh man, hey. Then week 1 we lose 40-0. It's like, oh man, we suck. But it's the time of season. Nobody has anybody lost. Nobody has any losses. Everybody has Super Bowl aspirations. You gotta love it. But I am really, really shocked that we don't only 6.5 wins. That's what a lot of the gambling sites and all that think that we're going to win. 6.5 wins. I have a hard time believing that. I mean, if we won 6 games last season, I think we're only going to win 6.5 games this year. Let's have Turbo Miller. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, man, that was the one thing. I'm kind of anxious to see. I want to might be like a returner, like a kick returner or something. Because I keep saying, like in the videos, you got these guys. They're like so close lined up. It's not like they're running from far apart, right? And they're lined up so close, and they're all just standing there and waiting for the ball to come down. I guess once the ball either hits the ground or touches a guy, then they can, right? But I mean, if you got a wall of guys here and a wall of guys here, and they just right. I mean, all you need is like a little gap. I mean, somehow you get one guy to turn one guy in, and the next guy next to him turns another guy out, or if you can, right? Get a little bit of a gap, and you get Turbo Miller in there. Ain't nobody catching him. I mean, was he? I think was it 4.27, 2.8, 2.6 he ran or something like that. I mean, nobody's catching the guy. I mean, the kicker ain't catching him. So I tell you what, early on, you might see quite a few returns for touchdowns because, I mean, the way it was before, we have been rated as the worst running backs. Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. No love for the Giants. No love for the Giants. I'm very anxious to see Tracy as well, too. Very anxious to see what he can do. Yeah. And I said, don't forget about Gray either. I mean, they drafted him for a reason. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, because we got rid of Brightwell. Who's is it going to be Singletary, right? Is it going to be Gray? And then Tracy? Those are going to be like the 3. And maybe Miller maybe makes as a returner on the team. Where's Corbin? Does he make the practice squad? We'll have to wait and see. He's going to be. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure they're not going to have Gray returning punts, that's for sure. He did not do a good job of that last year, that's for sure. The nice thing I like about with Tracy is because he was a wide receiver. So that gives him a big leg up there, that's for sure. And he ran the ball in college, but he didn't run the ball much at all. So he's got a lot of tread left on his tires. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, who is Singletary the main guy? Obviously they're going to have a running back by committee. Who are the 3 guys that they wind up having? It's going to be interesting to see. But obviously we know Brightwell won't be one of them. But the thing is with Brightwell, you were almost kind of like, was his time, limited here, period? Because when Shane and Dable came here, they didn't draft Brightwell. He came with the other, with Judge and Gettleman drafted him. So, all right, guys, been 1 hour and 23 minutes. Vinny G, man, good talking to you, brother. Thanks for staying up with me, man. Greatly appreciate it. So whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. Or if anybody's going to spend any time watching the replays, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. As always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo! Oh, yeah.